You would say that to me right before we came on. I love you
Happy hump
anyway.
day. How are you?
I am okay. Excuse the people outside because they always decide to cut the grass right outside the window as
Oh,
soon
as
as
soon
I
as we go
as
live.
soon as we go live.
You guys. So, hey, you guys. So, I am streaming on both channels, but it is members only on my main channel. You know why? Because I want you guys to come on over to the Teacher Project. So, if you are on the main Really Be TV channel, come on over to the Teacher Project, subscribe, and join the conversation. We're having a good time. We got some really good feedback on the Diddy video we did. We got some really, really good feedback on that.
Good.
I'm sorry. What was the pause smile about?
Because everybody loves really be everybody sends really be all of the good feedback. And everybody comes at me with, why do you make her do all of the work? Why don't you do anything?
Nobody
She
said
has
that.
to
No
read.
one has said that. Nobody has said that.
People have said to me that I
Nobody
don't
has
do
said that.
anything.
Listen, you know what? We say it time and time again that you do the research and I do the talking. We have said it a million times. Moving on.
It's always new people. We love y'all
Well,
though.
for
We
the
love
new
y'all. And thank you for
people,
the positive feedback.
for the new people, El Teddy is the researcher. He pulls the articles. I just sort of host the show. Okay. And
Hey
one
everybody
day,
coming in.
El Teddy will make us an intro.
I'm about halfway through. I just have to go through all of these hours and hours worth of footage to pull good clips to have.
And one
That's
day,
the problem.
El Teddy will make us
Can we
an
get to the articles, ma'am? Ma'am, we have articles, ma'am. We have articles. Lord.
Woo, we do. We have some articles today. Where do you want to start? Hold on. Let me let you guys know what is on the roster, and then we'll decide where we're going to go left or if we're going to go right, honey. We have a teacher shortage article. We have a DEI article out of Virginia. You know, these DEI articles are starting to remind me of when we were dealing with critical race theory
Yep.
articles, honey. It
Yep.
was just every week it was a new one. It was a new hit. It was a new
Hmm.
hit. It was a new hit.
I think we have
We
two
have
DEIs.
two DEIs. Okay. Oh, one of
One
these
out of
articles didn't come
Alabama.
through.
Yeah, one out of Alabama and one out of Virginia.
And then we have the Houston principal. Hold on, let me shoot. Tag on it. I do that every time. Hold on, one of these articles I emailed it, but it didn't come through. Let me email it again.
I feel like I'm low.
You feel like you're low? I get low. I get
Get
low. Get
low.
low. Get low. Okay, wait a minute.
Maybe I'm too high now.
Okay, that's the one that didn't come through. It's the Alabama one that didn't come through. Okay,
You got it?
I'm about to email it to myself again, but we're good. We can go ahead and get started. Where do you want to start? I mean, obviously we can't start with that one because I'm still emailing it to myself. But
Let's do Houston.
all right, let's start because we
Because and
know.
before while she's doing that, y'all, we have been on top of this Houston thing for some time now. There's a real problem.
Oh, it did come through.
There's a real problem really being ignored in the great state of Texas and in Houston. And as we read the article, we'll add commentary. But my main issue is the fact that they have all of these eyes on Florida, 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 Florida. Texas has started their stuff way before Florida and have basically gotten away unscathed. And the things that are going on in the great state of Texas, city of Houston, third largest city in these yet to be United States of America, is horrible, deplorable when we talk about education. It's just ridiculous, and nobody's saying anything. Nobody's making us think about it, and it's just going away unscathed. You know, the whole situation with our boy Daryl, Daryl with the hair,
Yeah,
that's out just outside of Houston.
right. So the link is in the chat, and we're getting ready to get into this article, you guys. We're getting ready to get into this article. It did come through. For some reason, it didn't have a subject on it, and I thought it was junk mail. Okay. So this is coming. This is coming to you guys from Houston Public Media, TV8. It is dated March the 18th. Last updated at 2:24. You know, we try to bring you guys up to date stuff, honey. All right. State appointed Superintendent Mike Miles, and baby, we have been following Mike Miles since he was appointed. State Superintendent Mike Miles accused news outlets of distorting his performance evaluation system for campus principals. Researchers and multiple principals have said it's too complicated, and more Houston IDS community members are now calling for it to end and for Miles to go. I'll be the first one in line. I'm sorry, let me keep going. After community members rallied to bombard his bosses with demands for his removal over the weekend, Houston ISD Superintendent Mike Miles insisted at a Monday morning press conference that he and his controversial principal evaluation system are here to stay. I get it that there's both confusion, that there's some confusion out there and some concern, Miles said, arguing that news media coverage failed to accurately describe the 117 principals as making good progress. Nobody said they're not going to make it, he continued. You want me to hire everybody back mid-season even though we only played half the game? Wait, what? Hold on. You want me to hire everybody back mid-season even though we only played half the games? Okay. So that's how we need to look at it, and to characterize and say, well, these principals, these high performing schools aren't going to make it. They're going to get fired. It's like, no, that's not the case. I'm confused already, and I'm only in the first paragraph, but I'll keep going. Miles said he expects about 80 to 90% of campus leaders to be able to return next school year. Just before spring break, 117 campus leaders were told to improve their performance or risk removal. The Houston Chronicle published and then took down a list of 117 principals who received an email about their mid-year performance results. Miles told principals the district had threatened to paper with legal action unless it took down a list, while the Chronicle suggested in an editor's note that a tip from an unnamed source called at least one name on this list into question. Miles continued to harshly criticize the Chronicle even after the list was taken down, calling the initial publication unconscionable. Community members from some of the district's top achieving schools expressed outrage when they found out their campus leader was on the list, and they praised the newspaper for their decision to publish it. On Monday, Miles initially said, I'm not saying anything about the other list, then called into question the accuracy of the Chronicle's list and again described it as illegally obtained, before adding, not by the Chronicle, I mean internally. Okay. Maria Calzada is president of the PTO at Carnegie Vanguard High School. Her son is an alumnus and her daughter is a sophomore. Carnegie's longstanding well-liked principal, Raymond Moss, was included on the Chronicle's list. Principal Moss seems to somehow be good with teachers, good with parents, students, and just a genuine person, like a very humble person, Calzada said. When this hit, it was like a bomb. I mean, everybody just lost their minds. Houston ISD community members have organized a message writing campaign pressuring Mike Miles' bosses and the state-appointed management board and other education policymakers to publicly denounce Mr. Miles' flawed principal evaluation system that will devastate our school communities. Over and over again, public trust has been broken. One draft of a template message argued going on to assert that a potential multi-billion-dollar bond package for school security and facilities improvement could be threatened if Miles continues as the leader of our district. Oh, wow. Ooh. You know, money talks. Everything else walks. Over and over again, public trust has been broken. One draft of a template messaging argued going on to assert that a potential multi-billion-dollar bond package for school security and facilities improvements could be threatened if Miles continues as the leader of our district. Calzada emphasized the school's PTO has not taken a position on a potential bond. We have asked for everyone to show up at the Thursday evening management board meeting, she said. We have asked that people stick on a positive message about not only Principal Moss, but the school. But Calzada added she is more personally aligned with opposition to a bond unless Miles is removed. I mean, I've never not voted for a bond, she says. It's difficult because we do need money going to the schools. It's hard because we're playing a game with people who don't want to win. I'm not certain that a bond package is the pressure point that we need, and I don't know what really is. It's hard. It's been keeping me up at night now, girl. The TEA improved performance governance model for the state appointed management board recommends a relatively hands off approach. The model calls for the state appointees to only engage in board work, which the TEA defines as operations designed designated by the law or items designated by the boards adopting long term goals, progress measures, and operating procedures. Items that are not legally required and that the board has not designed as board work are, by default, superintendent work. The governance framework states one of the key pillars of the framework measures whether the board operates in a way that allows the superintendent to accomplish the vision, calling for managers to only adopt local policies pertaining to board work. In order for the TEA to end the takeover, the management board must follow the TEA approved governance model. What you think?
Here's what we have going on. He's been on the war path since this whole situation went down, where the state took over, removed the superintendent, put this board in place. Remember, he's been trying to do a complete overhaul of the entirety of that school system. Houston ISD, I believe, and somebody in the chat check my facts. I believe they're number 8. I know Houston ISD and Hillsborough public school district over in Tampa was like 7 or 8, and I think they would go back and forth. I think Hillsborough topped them, but I think Houston is number 8 in the country. Okay, what he wants to do is he wants a complete overhaul. He wanted to get rid of all of these principles. He couldn't do it when he came in because people would raise hell. So he came up with this point system or evaluation system for the principles that he knew they could not had standards that they could not meet. Now the board is coming across disingenuous because anything that he does, they had to approve. The article even spoke to the fact that they approved this system of this point system or this evaluation system back in October. They approved it. And so I believe wholeheartedly everything that the newspaper put out was 100% true. You've seen this before, really. Be every big school district goes through this, where something gets leaked to the press, and the press put it out. I remember we had a situation in my school district where they talked about teacher shortages and teachers not getting paid, and then they put the list out of everybody making over $100,000 in the school, in the whole school district, and the list was so long of administrators and people downtown, clerical staff downtown making 6 figures, and they were like, oh, we're gonna they threatened legal action for you putting this out, and this is personnel information that's confident. It's already out there. The toothpaste is out of the tube. So you can imagine that's why he made that statement about, oh, he's trying to backpedal. He's backpedaling when he made that statement. Oh, you want us to fire people halfway through the school year, and that's not what we're going to do. Well, that was what you were going to do, sir, until the Houston Chronicle got wind of it. Somebody probably saw the letter and said, I know you lying. Sent it to a friend down there to the Houston Chronicle, said, here's the list, put it out there. And now they had to stop because parents saw it. Parents got involved. Parents said, I know you're not going to fire Mr. So-and-so or Miss So-and-so or Dr. So-and-so. We love them. They're doing the best we can. And it's also disingenuous to fire a principal in the middle of the school year. This is March. We're getting ready in a couple weeks for testing. We're getting ready. If it's one thing for you to do it during the summer, June 30th, July 1st is the end and beginning of most school districts' fiscal year. So it's one thing for you to do this in the summer. We're in March, really. Be everybody's getting ready to go into testing. if they haven't already started in some states testing. So you want to ceremoniously fire all of these people? What is that going to do to, any school, the morale at that school? You have from elementary level all the way up to high school. Some students are very protective of their principals. If the principal's doing right by those kids, they're very protective, and it could be catastrophic to the morale of those students, the staff and the faculty there. It's very disingenuous. And then I really want, now what they should have put out really be is, show me this metric system, show me this evaluation system, so we can truly evaluate and see whether or not it's equitable, whether or not it's worth its weight in gold. Because I just don't. I see this what it is. He wanted to fire everybody, and he couldn't do it, so he found a way to do it with this performance evaluation system. And then he knew he looked crazy when that article came out. He was firing 117 principals in the middle of the school year. That's what's going on here. Why is he? Why does he still have a job? Is my question. Because remember, he's the same superintendent that took away inclusion teachers and all of the extra paraprofessionals and inclusion teachers whose job it is to provide accommodations and services for students with disabilities. He's the same one that decided they were going to take away libraries out of the school system. He's the same one who said that people would have to work extra hours but not get extra pay. This has been a
Don't forget the
whole shit
vouchers. Don't
show.
forget about his
Right.
voucher
The
system.
whole vouchers and everything. This has been a shit show for almost a year now, and nobody's saying
So,
anything.
so, um, I went through this. And again, y'all don't want to hear what I'm about to say. Well, El Teddy don't want to hear what I'm about to say. One of the things that Michelle Reed did when she came to DC, no, seriously. One of the things that she did was principals in DC used to get I want to say it was a 3-year contract, which is a reasonable amount of time to take over school and expect to see some hard data showing improvement, no matter where the school is when you take over, right? Well, when Michelle Reed came in, she changed it from a 3-year contract to a 1-year contract. But the administrators union, I don't know if this was before her or after her, I don't know the details, but their contract states that they had to be given a 90-day notice if their contract wasn't going to be renewed, right? Here is the trick to that though. In DC, our budget starts um you know July the 1st, which means that this is around the time, right? This is around the time that principals will be getting that notice that their contract wasn't being renewed. And because a lot of principals, because all of the principals were on a 1-year contract, we would have the same thing. We literally, my friend Candy Peterson, who I've got to get her on here to interview her. She ran a blog. It was called the Washington Teacher, and principals would reach out to her, and she would do a blog post. This is back when she would do a blog post like the spring break massacre or something she would call it, and she would just every day she would update the list. This principal got their letter, this principal got their letter, this principal, and it was the same thing. It was the same reaction because there would be principals who were favorites, and the kids would be upset. And so then you spend the rest of the school year, like you said, interrupting testing, interrupting any end of the year activities. Now it's all about protest and letter writing and parent teacher meetings and people going to the school board and people going to the city council. And it was a SHIT show the last 3 months of school, because around now we would start finding out which principals weren't coming back, and the numbers would be astronomical. Sometimes the numbers would be in the hundreds. It was crazy. So I 100% understand what it's like to go through this, and for it to be in the paper, and for the paper to be reported, like parents finding out in the Washington Post that their principal isn't coming back, their child's principal isn't coming back. It's crazy. And a lot of times the teachers, the principals themselves were letting the posts know and stuff, So
The
I think it's
part
ridiculous. I mean, things are just out of control in Texas. We know.
there was a part where the woman was saying she was losing sleep about the bond, whether or not to renew the bond for the school. Um, in layman's terms, this is one of the main mechanisms where the schools are funded there. And so what they were looking at not doing is to show that they weren't in support of him or to give some repercussions to the superintendent, not approve the bond. But if you don't approve the bond, then you're keeping money away from these schools, school sites, students, and all of that other stuff. So now, if you approve the bond, she's their estimation is it gives the appearance that you're approving what he's doing when you're really not. And so they're looking for TEA to jump in and do the job for them. It's just a whole mess. And once again, we have a whole year gone by where we have probably quite a few students, hundreds of thousands of students in this school district that may have lost a whole year of good quality education that'll never come back.
Nope. Quake says, I'm going to read this before we move to our next article. Texas has a huge issue because they cut the education budget, although lottery sales have risen. The Texas lottery income was supposed to be used for the shortfall in the education budget. However, they flipped the script and cut the budget. The question is, when you say they have a huge issue, they only have a huge issue if somebody's going to do something, and Governor Hot Wheels ain't going to do nothing. She said they started with Dallas and cut 20% of the teachers, starting with principals. Wow. Wow.
Yep.
Oh, this is crazy. Jonathan says, why would they make it public before school was out? Well, because people he said, we didn't, when we were in school, we didn't know nothing. Well, because things were done with decency and order back then, right? If a principal was being fired, first of all, and here's the problem. We have to find a happy medium, because I do think that sometimes becoming a principal was like going into Congress. You just stayed until you just, like, you couldn't be voted out. You didn't have a term limit. And a lot of times principals stayed until they literally had to be wheeled out the door. So I do
Mm-hmm.
think there has to be a happy medium between when you're not being effective, when it's time to make a change, and just everybody being fired at the whim because of whatever. We got to find a happy medium. But again, things used to be done in decency and in order. And so I don't think it was all of this strife, because even if a principal was being relieved of their duty, I think everybody involved had enough respect for the process to let the school year play out without it becoming messy. Unless, it was a messy situation. I mean, there's exceptions to every rule. But I agree, a lot of times we didn't know anything either. But I also think a lot of times, because principals were leaving on their own terms, very few times principals were just being fired without cause. And now we're seeing, like, the whole point of this article is nobody knows the metrics that they're using to evaluate these principals in a clear enough way to say, oh, well, we understand why this principal isn't being asked back. It's so convoluted. Nobody knows what the heck is going on.
And then I also remember when a lot of these principals were hired, there were other metrics, there were other analytics that they were rated on or judged by. And this guy and TEA came in there and did a whole overhaul, threw the whole system away. And now uh, they're asked to do things that, in all honesty, are not the norm, are not the norm in education.
All right, well, let's move on to our next article. We try to keep you guys an hour, and we're already 24 minutes in. So let's go to the next article. Do you want to go to Virginia? You want to go to Alabama? Or do you want to talk about the teacher shortage?
I think teacher shortage we could do quick.
You do? All right, let's get into it. Because I got things to say. No, I'm joking. I mean, I do, but. All right, as always, I'm dropping the link in the chat. So if you guys want to join us.
To answer your question, Quake, what we're saying about Houston ISD, if you remember last year, sometime early last spring, they did a whole overhaul. They removed the whole school board, removed the superintendent, removed everybody, and the state took over. And that's how we got this guy in there and all of these new rules. And we've been chronicling this for about a year now, really be down
Yep.
to the
Did
Houston
about
ISD. Mm-hmm.
All right. Where are all the teachers? Breaking down America's teacher shortage crisis and 5 charts. So let me see. Do we need to share the screen if they're going to be charts? Do we have visuals here?
There's a little visual with bubbles I saw on it.
Okay. Well, maybe I'll share the screen so you guys, if they're visuals, you can see them. This is coming from USA Today. Hold on. Let me share the screen. If you guys are just coming in, thank you for being here. Please hit the like button. My main channel is on members only, but if you want to chat freely, come on over to the Teacher Project 2.0. Subscribe so you can add to the you can join in the conversation. The link is pinned at the top of the chart. Not the teachers on YouTube hiding. Don't do that. Don't do that. All right. Okay. Here we go. All right. Would you encourage someone to become a teacher? No. A survey conducted by the nonprofit research organization NORC at the University of Chicago, fewer than 1 in 5 Americans would encourage a young person to become a K through 12 teacher. According to an analysis from the labor market think tank ADP Research Institute, the supply of teaching applicants hasn't kept up with the demand. Research found there has been a staffing shortage for some time, but it has gotten worse since COVID-19. A state-by-state analysis of teacher job openings may provide a more realistic picture of the teacher shortage. In the Annenberg Institute at Brown University found in a recent study there were an estimated 55,000 vacant full-time teaching positions in the United States. The map below shows the extent to which there are teacher vacancies in each state. Florida has the highest demand for teachers. You think? You think Florida has the highest demand? With Utah being the lowest. So let's look at our map. Yeah, Florida has 5,294 teachers needed. North Carolina has 3,619. They don't have any data for South Carolina. Georgia has 3,011. Arizona has 2,000. Nevada 1,500. Washington 18. Okay. And Utah being the lowest with 37. They only need 37 teachers. Good Lord. Oh, they ain't letting go of no teachers over there in Utah, huh? Right.
Right.
The shortages vary greatly among states, districts, and schools. Shortages already were a problem in school. I just said that before the pandemic, especially among English learners, children of color, and children with disabilities. Schools are hiring more teachers than ever, so why aren't there enough of them? Applications have not caught up with the demand. The ADP Research Institute created indexes to measure employment changes using employment and wage data for kindergarten through 12th grade students in public and private schools. Prospective teachers are also less likely to pursue education careers in the first place. Wage competitiveness has weakened, especially for teachers ages 20 to 30. The greatest teacher to student ratio of any state was Vermont with 94.8 teachers per 1,000 students. Maine, New Hampshire, Connecticut, and New York round out the top 5 according to Scholaroo, a scholarship search platform. Research found that Arizona ranked the lowest with 43.8 teachers per 1,000 students. Utah, California, Nevada, and Florida joined Arizona at the bottom of the list. So it sounds like Utah does need more teachers. They just, whatever formula they use makes it look like
Mm-hmm.
they don't need as many teachers as they have. See, that's why you got to pay attention to the data. Scholaroo analyzed the number of teachers employed in each state and the state population in the map below. Okay. Arizona ranks the last in teacher to student ratio at 43.8. Wow. How teacher salaries compare. The average annual salary for teachers in the US was $68,000 as of October 2023, which is 8% less than the average salary for all workers in the country. The pay gap has been growing. In January of 2018, it was only 3%. Wow. So the pay gap is getting bigger? Huh. I'll take 8% more on my paycheck. As more senior educators leave the classroom, prospective teachers are choosing to work in higher paying industries. Teacher salaries grow at a slower rate than that of the workforce as a whole. In a study by the National Center for Education Statistics, the Statistical Center of the U.S. Department of Education's Institute of Education Sciences found public school attitudes towards their staffing levels are becoming a little more positive. As of the start of the 23-24 school year, 45% of public schools in the U.S. say they are understaffed, down from 53% of schools feeling the same way at the end of the previous school year. Oh, that's the end of the article. Okay.
Here, here's what you got going on in Florida. It's not as much as people may want to believe that it's because of the inherent racist, discriminatory, and bigoted laws that's being passed in Florida. Florida is not the only one. There's at least half the country that fall into that. The issue with Florida is if last time I remember, and I try to keep up on my statistics, Florida has 5 of the top 10 largest school districts in the country. So if you pull up the largest school districts in the country, 5 of the top 10 are in Florida. So you're talking about you're talking about per capita more students, and this is public school data. The data that they're pulling is public school. I just wanted to say that as well. But you're talking in per capita more students that feel the need. Now numbers get fudged, like Really B says. Some states they include charters in their public school datas. Some states they don't. Some states have voucher systems in place, more voucher systems I should say, to disperse those students and have them put into private schools and other schools that don't fall under this data. So you got a lot going on with, they say numbers never lie, but numbers can be manipulated. And you can, find creative ways to do it. But the long story short is we saw this come. Really be, we spoke to this at the beginning, hell, before the pandemic came, we were speaking to this before the pandemic came. And we talked about the inequities in education. We talked about the pay differentials and things like that, and the fact that there was such a wage gap. Why would any young person coming out of college say to themselves, I'm going to subject myself to a lower pay but much more demand? Think about this, Really be. Think about when the world was in black and white and you first started teaching, the rules and requirements and responsibilities that you had, the scrutiny that you had then, based on all of the things they say, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. Now, teachers are almost completely stripped of the autonomy that they used to have within the classroom now, as opposed to back in those days, Really be, when y'all had the abacus and the black chalkboards and stuff like that.
Well,
So
actually, I did have, when I first started teaching, I did have a chalkboard. I used to love using my different colored chalk so I could highlight different things, have chalk all on my clothes and on my hands at the end of the day. I caught the shade when the world was in black and white. I caught it. So here's the thing. A lot of times I don't think people understand why it was an accepted practice to pay teachers less, right? So for so long, it was an accepted practice to pay teachers less because the justification was, well, you get summers off and you get Christmas off and you get a spring break. And well, your salary is only for 9 months. So if it was so really for 9 months, it's comparable, right? People would justify it that way. Also, there was a level of respect in our community for teachers. So a lot of times people ate it, right? Men and women, they took the hit. They were like, well, I make less money, but I can spend summers with my kid. Like. But here's the thing. One, that level of respect is not there anymore. Two, they take more and more of the breakaway. When I first started teaching Christmas, when I first started teaching, summer break started like that first week of June. Maybe it carried over into the second week, but we were in like the teens. Like, I think when I first started teaching, maybe, and no, it wasn't in 1950, but I want to say the first week of school. I want to say the last day of school was like June the 8th, June the 9th, something like that. We damn near getting out of school at 4th of July. So you're taking away one of the biggest perks, which is our summer break. And you're taking away the respect level. And like El Teddy said, you're taking away our autonomy. You're taking away, listen, y'all don't really want me to peel back the layers, because if I really peel back the layers, for some of y'all, it would really hurt y'all feelings what's really going on in these schools. But let me go
It
ahead
can
and
get
tell you
ugly.
something. I'm going to tell you what I know and not what I think. I'm telling you what's really happening. You know what I said to somebody the other day? I said to a coworker the other day, I said, for a professional with multiple degrees, I don't make a lot of money. But for a babysitter, which is what you have reduced me to, I make damn good money. You see what I'm saying? At this point, you have reduced me to a babysitter.
I don't know
Um,
really be because babies the babysitting business is very lucrative nowadays. Hey, they charge about a minute when you late to pick up that baby. The babysitting business is a multi-million dollar business. I'm trying to tell you, if you work it right. I'm just trying to tell you what I know.
yeah. So I know, like I said, I don't even want to go that deep. I don't want to tell too much of my business, but pay attention to what's really going on with these schools. Like, there is no level, you know, there is no expectation of learning right now in school. And when I say no expectation of learning, obviously that's a broad statement. I cannot speak to every single school in every single county, city, state in the United States. But from what we come here almost week after week, and we go over these articles, and I know what's going on with my friends that are in education and what my experiences are. I know what it used to be when I started teaching in 1950. There is no level, there's no expectation of excellence. El Teddy talks all the time about when he first started teaching, and how the expectation of how the kids came in his room, the expectation of the workload and due dates and assessments, and all of the things that were very much set in place, non-negotiable. And everything wasn't wrong with it. Everything wasn't wrong with it. And now we're at a point where we just want the kids to come to school every day and get to the end of the year. We really don't care what they learned while they were there. And let's just call a thing a thing. And that's just how I feel. Maybe I'm just in a moment right now. But honestly, that has been my experience since we came back from the pandemic. There is no expectation of learning. None. There's no expectation of excellence. There is no bar for excellence. We allow our kids to come to school looking any kind of way. We allow our kids to come to school acting any kind of way. And the school systems have constantly taken away every tool that we have that holds kids to a standard.
Here's the issue. The true issue is that people really want to know what it is. You know how they always say follow the money? Most states and municipalities, their largest budgets are law enforcement and education. Those are generally the largest line item, budget line items. And so what a lot of rich white people started to see is there's a lot of money being spent on these public schools. And once they started to see that a lot of the administration positions, a lot of the school board positions started to go to people that did not look like them, they started to say, Let's start to take some of this money from them. So you started to see the explosions of the private schools, the explosions of the charter schools, the taking away of funds and resources from it. So now they're just I really feel this way, really be. I feel like they are just willing to let it go to hell in the handbasket. So everybody feels that it's just so destitute and feels so disenfranchised about the education system that they just pull them all out and say, well, everybody go to charter. Everybody go, let's just privatize the school districts. So these rich white people can go back to making millions and billions of dollars that they see going to public education. So I feel like they're trying to make public education fail for that reason. You remember there was a time when the big money was in testing and statewide assessments. Remember, the Bush family profited billions of dollars on testing because their family directly was did Pearson. Remember how big Pearson was? Really be Pearson. They were in 75 to 80% of the school districts around the country doing testing. And you know who owned Pearson? The Bush family. It's all about money. It's all about money. And so now they're willing to let it go to hell in a handbasket. So everybody feels disgruntled and disenfranchised and say, well, we just gonna go take our kids. We're gonna take these good vouchers and go on to private and charter and stuff like that and let these people make their money. But they don't care.
You want to go to Virginia or Alabama next, child?
We'll end with Virginia. Let's do Alabama. Kay Ivy makes me itch. Kay Ivy, she just makes me itch. She does. I wish I had my Real Women of Politics song to play right now before she comes on. Oh my
Put the
God.
link in the chat. Thank you, Latita. I apologize. Thank you, Latita, for becoming a member. I think you were a member before, but thank you for renewing your membership, my love. All right, let's head on down to Alabama, child. This is coming from CNN, uh, from March the 20th, updated at 2:26 today. Alabama Governor Kay Ivey signed a sweeping bill into law Wednesday that prohibits public schools and universities from maintaining or funding diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. The law, known as SB 129, also requires public universities to designate restrooms on the basis of biological sex, which Alabama law defines as the physical condition of being male or female, as stated on the individual's original birth certificate, and not the gender that aligns with how that person identifies. In a statement shared with CNN Wednesday, Governor Ivey said her administration will continue to value Alabama's rich diversity, but she vowed to stop DEI supporters and proponents from pursuing a liberal political movement counter to what the majority of Alabamians believe. The law goes into effect on October the 1st of 2024. SB 129 comes amid a nationwide push from conservative lawmakers to limit the rights of transgender and LGBTQ individuals and ban DEI programs after the Supreme Court overturned affirmative action. The legislation prohibits local school boards and universities from maintaining an office or department that promotes DEI. It also bars students, employees, and contractors from being required to attend any DEI training orientation. Of course, hold on, pop up. Of course, work that advocates or requires assent to a divisive concept. The legislation outlines 8 divisive concepts, including discussions around conscious or subconscious racism and sexism, and whether mediocrity or traits such as hard work ethic or racist are racist or exist. They
That
are
was
now.
meritocracy. I don't want them to get that
What I
confused.
say?
Mediocrity.
Oh, my bad, y'all. Apologize. Meritocracy. It also empowers state agencies, including local boards of education and public universities, to discipline or terminate the employment of any employee or contractor who knowingly violates this act. However, the law specifically notes that it does not prohibit students and staff from hosting DEI programs, provided that no state funds are used. Universities are also still allowed to engage in recruiting and outreach programs and teach topics and events in a historically accurate context. Earlier this month, protesters rallied outside of the Alabama state capitol and urged lawmakers to oppose the bill, holding signs that read, "Democracy thrives on diversity and DEI saves lives." Okay, DEI saves lives. The ACLU of Alabama also spoke out against the state lawmakers' attempt to frame DEI program as divisive. The bill is intended to have a chilling effect on discourse regarding race, class, sexuality, and national origin, and seeks to characterize the discussions and accurate teachings, assignments, and trainings that also supplement them as divisive. The legal advocacy wrote in a statement on their website. Birmingham Mayor, we talked about this the other day. Mayor Randolph Woodfin has said that he would encourage Black athletes to consider attending universities outside of his state if the bill were to become a law. To the state of Alabama, why would you make it illegal for institutions of higher learning to promote diversity and inclusion among its faculty and staff? Why would you block fair representation and opportunities for all people? He wrote on Twitter, also known as X. Although I'm the Although I'm the biggest Bama fan, I have no problem organizing Black parents and athletes to attend other institutions outside of the state where diversity and inclusion are prioritized. Okay, that's the end of the article.
I think that when we talked about critical race theory, that was their attack on K through 12 education. And people, for some reason, we talked about this being a slippery slope way back then. And people just let them go ahead and steamroll through the critical race theory CRT notion that was never happening through K through 12, decimated K through 12, but never thinking, why would we think that this could happen on the university level? No, because the hallmark of universities are is critical thinking, being progressive, forward thinking. You know what these people are looking at? These people are saying what our fathers and grandfathers could not do and stop back in the day in the 60s and 50s when there were protests on college campuses. We're not here for it. Our fathers and grandfathers may have allowed it. We ain't here for none of it. So just like we steamrolled the CRT notion through K through 12, we're steamrolling the DEI through college campuses. And now what used to be the bedrock of higher education and these institutions now is being completely decimated. Decimated. Let's be clear. What they want you to do, when they said that they were making America great again, they knew exactly what they were going to do. They knew it wouldn't happen overnight, but they put the systems in place because we are going back to 19th century America with 21st century technology. I'm telling you, really, this is happening in real time. And people were asleep at the wheel. People laughed it off and said, oh, well, at least when they go to college, they'll be taught. No, not so. Because it's I want people to get away from this notion. I know we had an article last week where we talked about this, but I wanted people to get away from this notion, thinking that this is only happening at PWIs. There are many, many, many HBCUs that are state schools and also are being told you have to get rid of anything that involves DEI. And I'm trying to figure out how you mitigate that. What's the mitigation of that? You being an HBCU, but then being told you can't do anything to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion at this school because you're a state school. This is sweeping the country. And so that's why also it was disingenuous for the NAACP to say boycott Florida when I told you Texas had it before Florida. You got Alabama doing it. We're talking about Virginia. Right next to Alabama is Mississippi. Right next to Mississippi is Arkansas. You got Missouri over there, Oklahoma. Where do you want the kids to go? Like literally, where do you want them? And I applaud this mayor for saying find somewhere outside of Alabama, but you're talking about a lot of students who may not have the resources to relocate to the Northeast or out to California somewhere. So where do they go? Because everywhere around them above Alabama is what? Tennessee? I mean, where do you want them to go? And it's so ridiculous. And once again, we've said this over and over, really be Miguel Cardona, the Biden administration,
It's
they were
silent.
silent during
Silent.
CRT, and they are silent yet again while we're doing DEI, which to me tells me y'all don't give a damn. You don't give a damn because it's not affecting you, Joe Biden, or your children. Doesn't affect you if there's no DEI. You can get on these stages and in front of these podiums and say, "Oh, we're here for everybody. We're here to so everybody, wins and everything." But when the rubber hit the pavement and you have these things going on during this 4-year administration, you were mum's the word. You were radio silent from his office to Miguel Cardona's office. They have been radio silent. CRT steamrolled through. Most of the country now is affected by it. No Black history nowhere. DEI is here. You can't even have Black student unions at a lot of these places anymore. You can't even have clubs and organizations that promote diversity at all. They are firing people of color. Who you think work at the DEI office? Who you think hold all of the DEI positions at these schools? People of color. A lot of them women, a lot of them Black women, Latino, Latinx, I should say, and other races. These are minorities that are losing their jobs. And then what you're ceremoniously telling white America is you don't have to be tolerant of these others. You don't have to try to understand them. You don't have to be respectful to them. You could be as bigoted and as discriminatory as you want to be to any of the marginalized group. And we have no problem with it. Let me get off my soapbox really because I might get triggered. Go ahead before I keep going.
So here's what I wish, and I know this is gonna sound crazy, but here's what I wish the NAACP will put their effort into, and call up these organizations like Al Sharpton's network and
National Action Network.
yeah, and a lot of these Urban League and the United Negro College Fund, like let's pull these resources. And your point is valid to say a lot of these students don't have the resources, but guess what we can do? If we can organize ourselves, let's go in and help these kids find the alternatives. Because something I thought about the other day after we did our live, after we talked about these, you're right. There are a lot of schools that are, a lot of states, excuse me, that are doing this, but there are a lot of states that are not. So with NIL, I'm just talking about sports right now. With NIL and sports, the thing we can use to our advantage is that these college students can make money anywhere they go. And that can be a selling point. If we can organize ourselves, we absolutely could get these athletes out of these schools, which look, money talks, the other stuff walks. If wait a minute, let me
No,
finish.
I'm listening.
If we can get these athletes to not go to the Bamas and the Floridas and the Texas and the whatever, the money can be, I say it will be, El Teddy. I'm saying the money can be. And instead of writing letters saying, oh, we're just going to boycott Florida, let's organize ourselves and let's give these students a feasible alternative and a path to get there. That's all I'm saying.
The only point that I was going to make about NIL is I agree with your point where you could do that, but that would take some time because a lot of those NIL deals are based on eyeballs that are on that person, how many opportunities they get on television, on national, television for the big
I agree.
games. And you know how these white people do in these places. We not putting them these, small black institutes. They will find ways to make it this less advantageous for them to go to the alternatives. That's what they do because it's taking money out of their pockets. You know how these people roll. They don't play fair. They don't play fair at all.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And I'm not saying, but that's, I'm one of those people. If you bring me a problem, bring me a solution. Okay, you want me to boycott Florida? Cool. I'm a Division 1 athlete. I've been recruited by all of these schools. I decided I wanted to go to Bama. Tell me why I shouldn't go to Bama and give me the alternative and give me the way to do it and let me figure it out. Don't just tell me what not to do. I'm an 18-year-old high school student trying to get my family out the hood, right? Trying to get the eyeballs on me, trying to get to the NFL or the NBA. Give me the alternative. Don't just say boycott. And that's what I'm saying. We put make these organizations put the boots on the ground. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. Like I said, the problem is by the time people realize that they have so many systems already set up and in place where it's almost impossible to get from out of it, to get from entangled in it. It's almost impossible.
Yeah, I don't listen. I'm not saying my answer is the easy answer or the right one because who knows. But I definitely understand your point. Valid. All right, let's finish up in Virginia in my backyard. Let's see what they talking about. This is coming from Inside Higher Education. Virginia officials scrutinized two universities' DEI course syllabi. A spokesman for Governor Glenn Youngkin
That's your friend.
invoked, huh?
That's your friend.
Yeah, okay. Invoked concern about core curriculum mandates that are a thinly veiled attempt to incorporate the progressive left's groupthink. Two universities' diversity education initiatives may be in peril. Republican politicians have targeted diversity, equity, and inclusion in state after state. They've passed laws to limit, defund, or outright ban related programs. They've demanded information on universities' DEI expenses and their numbers of DEI positions. Governor Glenn Youngkin, a Republican who won office in 2021 after campaigning against the alleged teaching of critical race theory in K through 12, is diving into details. His education secretary office has requested to review syllabi from upcoming diversity themed courses at two public universities. George Mason, which has been planning a broad Just Societies mandate, and Virginia Commonwealth University, which has been planning a new radical literacy requirement, racial, excuse me,
Racial literacy.
I got it, racial literacy requirement. The universities say they have complied, golly, with the unusual request. Kristen Reed, assistant professor in the Focused Inquiry Department at VCU and co founder of VCU's chapter of the United Campus Workers Union, called Youngkin's request to scrutinize just these courses a targeted attack on teaching about race and racism. I have seen how these culture wars play out in K through 12 education. They start with these symbolic gestures and they lead to book banning and censorship and the firing of teachers. Faculty members at both institutions have been planning for years to launch the requirements for new undergraduates who were hoping to do so in the fall. Now, some worry Youngkin's request may be a prelude to violations of academic freedom and shared governance that will quash the new criteria. Youngkin's first executive order as governor was to root out critical race theory and other inherently divisive concepts from public K through 12 schools. At George Mason, a few Board of Visitors members have pushed back on the requirement. The implementation of a racial literacy class requirement at VCU was already in question. Melissa Brockleman Post, a communication professor at the George Mason Faculty Senate president, was more measured than Reed, telling Inside Higher Ed, a lot of folks get nervous when there's a lot of scrutiny placed on syllabi, she noted. The board has a broad oversight, but said the details of the curriculum really should be left to faculty. In response to an interview request and email questions, including what the governor plans to do with information gleaned From the syllabi, Youngkin spokesman Christian Martinez emailed Inside Higher Ed a one-paragraph statement. The administration has heard concerns from members of the Board of Visitors, parents, and students across the Commonwealth regarding core curriculum mandates that are a thinly veiled attempt to incorporate the progressive left's groupthink on Virginia students, it said. Virginia's public institutions should be teaching our students how to think, not what to think, and not advancing ideological conformity. Wow. George Mason and VCU have separate boards. Martinez didn't respond to a follow up question regarding which university the statement was referring to or whether it was referring to both. It's now in doubt whether either university will move forward with this requirement. Reed, a full time, non tenured faculty member, said Youngkin's request, combined with VCU's cutting of positions for next academic year, paint a bad picture for academic freedom. You want me to keep reading or we got it?
No, it's
Let me
good. I
go back.
mean, that's the basics of it.
Yeah.
Really, be when the last time you seen the state board of the state education, the highest person in education in the state,
As
be
for
that the
syllabi,
education commissioner or the secretary of education, ask for specific syllabi? Come on now, mind you, any syllabus at any school has to go through rigorous scrutiny from the department first, with intra department.
yeah,
Then they have to go from the department chair to the dean of that school, or the dean of that respective school. It then has to go to all of the processes within that university. There are accreditation standards that go into this. They didn't just wake up one day and say, oh, we just gonna make this course and just gonna throw a syllabus together. That's not how this works.
that's not how
mind
any of this
you
works.
mind you every in order for those courses to have been approved, they had to, and it's a public school. That means that they've already passed through the standards that you already had in place, standards that the state board of education already has said that they have to meet. But now you all of a sudden are saying, oh, well, we need to just look at these two. Mm-mm. We know exactly what this is. We know exactly what this is. And this is them. My grandfather used to have this saying. He used to say, how do you kill a gnat? You kill it with a sledgehammer. That way you teach all the other gnats, flies, and birds flying around that you're not the one to play with. And this is killing a gnat that did everything that wasn't even bothering you with the sledgehammer. Because what he's saying is, don't even think about or trying to institute another, course that involves race or anything like that. And why just these two schools? Because I'm sure there are other state schools that have coursework and things like that similar to it. What's the hard on? I'm not sure of the location of these schools. Maybe they're close to each other, or maybe they're close to the capital. I don't know, and you may know better than me, really, be where these schools are located in Virginia. But
George Mason is about it's closer to DC. VCU, I think I think VCU is down in the Richmond area, but George Mason is up here.
okay. But my thing is,
I have
what was
friends
it
that
about these?
George Mason, so George Mason isn't that far.
I really would love to see what the connection is with these two schools, because I promise you, really, be they're not the only two state schools that have these courses. I promise you. And then when you're doing this, I want to see also, if you're gonna purge, you better purge equitably. I want to see the Asian studies courses that you're scrutinizing. I want to see the Latinx courses that you're scrutinizing. I want to see courses on Jewish history scrutinized. Let's just go down that road, since that's what we're doing today. Let's just do this.
Here's what I find funny, and you know this. I'm just going to throw this out to the people before we get ready to get out of here. What's funny is that it was a group of Asian students that filed the lawsuit that went to the Supreme Court that overturned um,
Mm-hmm.
affirmative
Affirmative
action.
action. Mm-hmm.
And now Asian students are worried about not being able to get into college. Is that not the funniest thing?
Mm.
You know, it goes
They always
to
think it's
me.
all about the blacks.
That's a direct. That is a direct connection to be careful what you wish for. Anyway,
I've heard on some in some circles they're saying that some women are and girls are also having issues getting into schools.
I'm sure.
Hello, hello.
See, it's funny
See
because,
y'all.
like you said, what's funny to me is how people don't realize that they're a minority too.
Hmm.
Right. They
And
thought
that
that they thought that these unqualified black people were taking their seat at the table, not realizing that all of us were going to be kicked out of the dining room.
that's right. Because black people fought for everybody. We didn't go in there and say, "Oh, we want black rights." No, we wanted civil rights for everyone,
Two different things.
and for everyone. Let's just be clear.
Exactly.
We wanted everybody to come and have a seat at the table. We wanted everybody to be able to do what they want to do. But y'all thought that affirmative action was for black rights, not knowing that that was for civil rights, so that everyone had these rights. But because black people were the ones who orchestrated some of these movements, who fought for it, I mean, we saw it going back to the days of women's suffrage. Remember that, really, be when they were all for the abolitionist movement, and then when black men got the right to vote before women got the right to vote, the white women
Oh, they was
went on
pissed.
this. They they left town real fast. They weren't part of no more
They was
rallies and
pissed,
stuff like that.
honey. They said, you mean to tell me the person that I used to own 2 months ago is gonna get the right to
Mm-hmm.
vote before me? What the
Mm-hmm.
hell?
Mm-hmm.
But that's just like, I mean, I hate to go down that road, but that's just like all of these women that was supporting these politicians that told them, "Oh, we're
Told
gonna
them.
overturn Roe v. Wade."
Mm-hmm.
Told them.
Told you.
They
And they thought it
told.
would never
See,
happen.
here's my thing, and let me, because I'm about to get on my soapbox. I don't have a problem if the person lied to you and you bought their lies and you thought they weren't gonna do something. But these people, these white men, told y'all,
They did.
"Oh, we're overturning Roe v. Wade as soon as we get a chance." They told y'all that. They told y'all they was gonna get rid of affirmative action. They told y'all. And what did y'all do? And when I say y'all, I'm talking about all the black folk or the minority folk or the women folk that still voted for these men. Because let's
Mhm.
be clear, if they didn't get the minority vote and they didn't get the female vote, they'd never be elected. So clearly, there were people who were voting against their best interest. And that I will never understand. Listen, I ain't never going, well, never is a strong word, but I understand rich white men who vote for rich white men who promise to keep them rich white men. I don't understand poor people and minorities and disenfranchised people who say, he don't mean it. Yeah, he does.
And then act surprised.
Oh, not just act surprised, act hurt. You and your fifis. See, now I'm getting on my soapbox. Let's get ready to get out of here. Uh, El Teddy, El Teddy will not be live today. He's not feeling well. He needs to take some time to rest. Okay. Well, I ain't gonna say not feeling well, but he's lethargic today. He's dealing with, whatever. I personally, I'm going to be recording a podcast. With oh God, oh shit. It's anyway. So I think I am going to do a tribe meeting, but it'll be late. It'll be probably 8-ish. Okay, you guys. So because I got some things I want to talk about. See, when I don't have time to do the tribe meeting, the people be acting stupid, and I got shit to talk about. But when when I got time, they ain't talking about nothing. But we got some stuff to talk about today. All right, you guys. He went home and now good night.
Wait, how the heck?